English teacher. Hope you people are doing well. Students, today we are going to discuss chapter number 1, the third level from your book Vistas. The third level by Jack Finney is a scientific fantasy. It also talks about time travel. The theme of the story is escapism and how the narrator indulges in psychological refuse to escape from the realities. This story takes place in about 1950s. The story is about Charlie, a young man who is 31 years old and lives in the city of New York with his wife. So now, what is this third level? Third level is nothing but an imaginary level that takes people from there to Illinois, Galesburg. Though all the people believe that there are only 2 levels, it is only Charlie who believes that there are 3 levels at the station. Now let us look at the line-to-line explanation of the chapter.
Have you ever had any curious experience which others find hard to believe? So the narrator is trying to find out if any of us had any curious experience which is hard to believe. Most of us have a lot of experiences in our life and we narrate them to our friends and relatives, and most of them are believable, but sometimes there are experiences which are very hard to believe. So this story is also about one such incident which is narrated by Charlie the young man. The presidents of the New York Central and the New York, New Haven and Hartford railroads will swear on a stack of timetables that there are only 2. The story begins with the mention of a third level at the Grand Central Station, which only has 2 levels in real. Here narrator says that even the presidents of the New York, New Haven and Hartford railroads will swear, mean they are ready to keep their hand on the stack of timetables. Stack of timetable mean pile of timetables, and promise that there are only 2 levels. But I say there are 3 because I have been on the third level of the Grand Central Station. I here mean Charlie, the narrator. He believes that there are 3 levels because he says that he has been to the third level. Yes, I have taken the obvious step. I talked to a psychiatrist friend of mine, among others. I told him about the third level at Grand Central Station, and he said it was a waking dream wish fulfillment. So the narrator says that considering the entire scenario, he took the obvious, the next clear step. He talked about this to his psychiatrist friend, and his friend explained him that he was experiencing a waking dream wish fulfillment. And what is waking dream wish fulfillment? It's kind of a daydream. You have a daydream and then try to fulfill that daydream. So here the psychiatrist friend of Charlie tells that he was only trying to fulfill his desires through daydreaming. He said, I was unhappy. That made my wife kind of mad. But he explained that he meant the modern world is full of insecurity, fear, war, worry, and all the rest of it. And that I just want to escape. The psychiatrist also told Charlie that he was an unhappy man. When Charlie told about this to his wife, she became very angry because she did not want her husband to be called as an unhappy man. But the psychiatrist explained that the modern world is full of insecurity. So, what is the feeling of insecurity? When you feel that there is no security and you may face danger at any point of time. So when you are in such a situation, when you are afraid of the war and there are many other things around you, you just want to escape from the situation. So similarly, the psychiatrist is trying to tell Charlie that he only wants to escape from the reality, escape from the unhappiness around him. So That is why he is trying to imagine something called the third level. Well, who does not? Everybody I know wants to escape, but they don't wander down into any third level at Grand Central Station. To this, Charlie says that who doesn't? Everybody wants to escape from reality, but it is only he who has found the third level at the Grand Central Station. But that's the reason, he said, and all my friends agreed. Everything points to it, they claimed. My stamp collecting, for example, that's a temporary refugee from reality. Well, maybe, but my grandfather did not need any refugee from reality. Things were pretty nice and peaceful in his day. From all I hear, and he started my collection. Charlie begins to believe in the possibility that he has been experiencing all this to escape the harsh realities of the modern world. His friends agreed to it as well. They also told him the stamp collecting, which was his hobby, is also kind of escape from reality. To this, Charlie says that his grandfather also had a habit of collecting stamps, and he says that his grandfather did not need any kind of escape from reality. Things were very nice in his time, and it was his grandfather only who has started his stamp collection. His grandfather must have not been insecure. It's a nice collection too. Blocks of four of practically every US issue, first day covers, and so on. President Roosevelt collected stamps too. So he says that his grandfather had a very good collection of stamps and it was neatly arranged. He talks about the first day covers, which I'll be explaining you later on. So he says that it's not only he and his grandfather, even President Roosevelt collected stamps. He just wanted to say that all these people were quite sane and they did not collect stamps just because they wanted to escape from reality. Anyway, here's what happened at Grand Central Station. One night last summer, I worked late at the office. I was in a hurry to get uptown to my apartment, so I decided to take the subway from Grand Central because it's faster than the bus. Now he is trying to explain how he reached the third level of Grand Central Station. He says that one night he worked late, so that's why he had to leave his office late. Because he worked late, he wanted to get home fast, so he decided to take the train from the railway station. Because he felt that it was faster than the bus, so he headed towards the Grand Central Station. Now, I don't know why this should have happened to me. I'm just an ordinary guy named Charlie, 31 years old, and I was wearing a tan gabardine suit and a straw hat with a fancy band. I passed a dozen men who looked just like me, and I was not trying to escape from anything. I just wanted to get home to Louisa, my wife. Here, Charlie says that he does not understand why this all happened with him. He describes himself as an ordinary man of 31, dressed in a tan gabardine suit and a straw hat with a fancy band. It was so ordinary that he could see other similar men at the station. He explains how he was in his normal state of mind, not wanting to escape from anywhere. All he wanted was to be with his wife, Louisa, at that hour. I turned into Grand Central Station from Vanderbilt Avenue and went down the steps to the first level, where you take trains like the 20th century. Here, Charlie comes to the part of the incident where he entered the Grand Central from Vanderbilt Avenue and took the stairs to the first level, where one boarded trains like the 20th century. Then I walked down another flight to the second level, where the suburban trains leave from ducked into an arched doorway heading for the subway and got lost. Here, Charlie says that then he went down another floor to reach the second level from where the suburban trains leave. Suburban means residential trains. From there, he entered an arched doorway and got lost. That's easy to do. I've been in and out of Grand Central hundreds of times, but I'm always bumping into new doorways and stairs and corridors. Then Charlie says it was nothing unusual for him because even if he had to come to that station 1,000 times, there were occasions he bumped into new corridors and doorways. Once I got into a tunnel about a mile long and came out into the lobby of the Roosevelt Hotel. Another time I came up in an office building on 46th Street 3 blocks away. He narrates the incidents here that these all things happened with him. He said once he entered the wrong lobby and reached Roosevelt Hotel, and another time in an office building which was 3 blocks away. Sometimes I think Grand Central is growing like a tree, pushing out new corridors and staircases like roads. So he says that whenever he goes into the Grand Central station, he finds new corridors, new staircases, and new doors. So he says that he feels that station is growing like a tree with new branches in all the directions. There's probably a long tunnel that nobody knows about, feeling its way under the city right now, on its way to Times Square and maybe another to Central Park. He imagines that there was long tunnel under the city to the Times Square and to maybe to the Central Park, and nobody knows about it. And maybe because for so many people through the years, Grand Central has been an exit, a way of escape. Maybe that's how the tunnel I got into. But I never told my psychiatrist friend about that. So here Charlie says that he feels it might be because Grand Central is a place of exit for many of the people, for innumerable people. He also managed to escape reality because of the same reason, although he never shared it with his psychiatrist friend. The corridor I was in began angling left and slanting downward, and I thought that was wrong, but I kept on walking. So here Charlie says that the unusual corridor he had entered into, it began angling left and slanting downward, which he felt odd, which he felt that it was a wrong way, but he kept on walking. All I could hear was the empty sound of my own footsteps, and I did not pass a soul. Then Charlie says that there was no one except him, and the voice of his feet echoed. And he could only hear the sound of his own footsteps. Then I heard that sort of hollow roar ahead that means open space and people talking. The tunnel turned sharp left. I went down a short flight of stairs and came out on the third level at Grand Central Station. So here he describes that how he entered that third level. He says that he finally heard the sound of people talking from a distance. Then he took a left turn and walked down the stairs again, only to reach the third level. For just a moment, I thought I was back on the second level, but I saw the room was smaller. There were fewer ticket windows and train gates, and the information booth in the center was wood and old looking. He thought that he had somehow made his way back to the second level. He was just thinking as if he entered the second level again, but then he noticed that the room over there was small and there were fewer ticket windows and train gates, and the information booth that was there in the center, it was of wood and it was looking old. It was looking old kind of booth in that center. And the man in the booth wore a green eye shade and long black sleeve protectors. The lights were dim and sort of flickering. Then I saw why they were open flame gaslights. He noticed that the man in the booth was also different and the station was dim lit. It was not properly lit For there were open flame gas lights. He found that there were open flame gas lights. There were brass buttons on the floor, and across the station, a glint of light caught my eye. A man was pulling a gold watch from his vest pocket. Charlie noticed few strange things over there. He could see brass spittoons everywhere, when suddenly a glimpse of light caught his eye, and he saw a man who was pulling his gold watch from the vest. He snapped open the cover, glanced at his watch, and frowned. He wore a derby hat, a black four-button suit with tiny lapels, and he had a big black handlebar mustache. Then Charlie says that man opened the cover and looked at his watch and frowned. Frown is an expression. He described the clothes he was wearing. He told that he was dressed in an old fashioned style clothes, as he was wearing a hat, a black four button suit with tiny lapels. I mean, the clothes that people used to wear in olden days. Then I looked around and saw that everyone in the station was dressed like 1890 something. I never saw so many beards, sideburns, and fancy mustaches in my life. Then he says suddenly he noticed that everyone was dressed like the 19th century. It was basically the time before deadly wars. So many beards and fancy mustaches all around, something that the narrator, this Charlie, had never seen before. A woman walked in through the train gate. She wore a dress with leg of mutton sleeves and skirts to the top of her high buttoned shoes. Back of her, out on the tracks, I caught a glimpse of a locomotive, a very small courier and Ives locomotive with a funnel shaped stack, and then I knew. Then he says that he saw a woman who was wearing a dress with sleeves, the sleeves that looked like a leg of a mutton, and she wore a skirt and high buttoned shoes as well. Just behind this lady, he saw a locomotive. Locomotive is nothing but a train. It's a very small courier with a funnel shaped chimney. Now he wanted to make sure that where was he? He had some doubts in his mind. To make sure, I walked over to a newsboy and glanced at the stack of papers at his feet. It was The World, and The World has not been published for years. So he says that to make sure, he walked to the newsboy who was sitting over there, and then he looked at the stack of papers, a pile of papers that the boy had, and he noticed it was The World. The World is the name of the newspaper, and it has not been published for years. The lead story said something about President Cleveland. I found that front page since in the public library files, and it was printed June 11, 1894. So the lead story, the main story said that something was about President Cleveland. So the main story, the main heading of the newspaper was about President Cleveland, and he was amazed to see that the date on the paper was 1894. I turned toward the ticket window, knowing that here, on the third level at Grand Central, I could buy tickets that would take Louisa and me anywhere in the United States we wanted to go in the year 1894, and I wanted 2 tickets to Galesburg, Illinois. Now, since then, he understand that it was the third level and he could travel anywhere to United States with his wife. So he wanted to buy some tickets. He actually wanted to go back into the year 1894. He wanted 2 tickets after understanding that it was third level. He wanted to travel back in time. He wanted to go back to 1894 and especially to the place called Galesburg, Illinois. Have you ever been there? It's a wonderful town, still, with big old frame houses. huge lawns, and tremendous trees whose branches meet overhead and roof the street. Here, Charlie describes the beauty of the town. He says that it was very beautiful town and with old frame houses. There were huge lawns and trees were very huge, and the branches of the trees meet overhead as if making the roof of the streets. And in 1894, summer evenings were twice as long, and people sat out in their lawns, the men smoking cigars and talking quietly, the women waving palm leaf fans with the fireflies all around in a peaceful world. Then he describes that in 1894, summers were 2 times long as compared to the time in which he was living. And people used to sit in their lawns, and men used to smoke cigars, and women they used to wave their palm leaf fans. There were fireflies all around. It was very peaceful atmosphere at that time. To be back there with the First World War still 20 years off and World War II over 40 years in the future, I wanted 2 tickets for that. Charlie wanted to visit Galesburg with his wife. He says that at that time it was still before the World Wars, and it was at least 20 years for the First World War to begin and 40 years for the Second World War to be in the future at that point of time. And he wanted 2 tickets to go to that Galesburg. The clerk figured the fare. He glanced at my fancy band, but he figured the fare, and I had enough for 2 coach tickets one way. So the Charlie says that as the clerk calculated the fare, he looked at Charlie's fancy headband. Charlie had enough money for one-sided journey for the 2 coach tickets. But when I counted out the money and looked up, the clerk was staring at me. He nodded at the bills. That ain't money, mister, he said, and if you're trying to skin me, you won't get very far. And he glanced at the cash drawer beside him. So Charlie says that when he counted the money, the clerk started looking at him. He started staring at him. He nodded at the bills. The clerk said that that money would not be received because it was not the legal tender at that time. It was not acceptable as that Charlie was in 1894. So at that time, the money Charlie was having was not acceptable. It was not of that time. That's why clerk was staring at him as if Charlie was going to deceive him. And the clerk even told him if he was trying to be smart, though he could not go too far. He would not be able to get away with it. And he looked at the cash drawer beside him. Of course, the money was old style bills, half again as big as the money we use nowadays, and different looking. I turned away and got out fast. There's nothing nice about jail, even in 1894. So when that clerk glanced at his cash drawer, then this Charlie realized that currency used back then, currency used in 1894 was different and almost of the double size. Then Charlie ran out from there because he did not want to go to jail even in 1894. And that was that. I left the same way I came, I suppose. Next day, during lunch hour, I drew $300 out of the bank, nearly all we had, and bought old style currency. That really worried my psychiatrist friend. You can buy old money at almost any coin dealers, but you have to pay a premium. So Charlie further says that he left the same way the way he entered the third level, and it was where the day ended. The next day he went to the bank and he withdrew all his savings and he wanted to convert that into old money by paying some amount of premium. And when my psychiatrist friend got to know about it, he got worried that what was this Charlie doing. My $300 bought less than 200 in old style bills, but I did not care. Eggs were 13 cents a dozen in 1894. So, this Charlie was having $300, but he wanted to buy 200 as he wanted to buy old style bills, so he got only 200 old style bills in return of $300. But he did not care because he knew the things were really cheap in 1894. One could buy eggs with 13 cents. Okay, one could buy dozen of eggs with 13 cents only. But I have never again found the corridor that leads to the third level at Grand Central Station, although I've tried often enough. So Charlie says that unfortunately he could never find the way to the third level corridor again, despite his hard efforts. Louisa was pretty worried when I told her all this and did not want me to look for the third level anymore. And now, after a while, I stopped. I went back to my stamps, but now we are both looking every weekend because now we have proved that the third level is still there. So, Charlie's wife also feels sad that he was not able to find the third level. He says that his wife also told him not to look for the third level anymore, and he stopped looking for it. He also said he went back to his hobby of stamp collecting. So now he says that they both have started looking for it again. They can, if they can find the third level. So now what happened? Both Charlie and his wife, they started looking for the third level again, because Charlie says that he has the proof that third level exists. My friend Sam Weiner disappeared. Nobody knew where, but I sort of suspected because Sam's a city boy and I used to tell him about Galesburg. I went to school there and he always said he liked the sound of the place, and that's where he is all right in 1894. So, this Charlie says that he cannot find his friend Sam Weiner. Now, who's this Sam Weiner? Sam Weiner is his that same psychiatrist friend. So he had a doubt that Sam had also escaped to Galesburg. But he could not believe because Sam was a city boy and he loved to live in city. He grew up in city and person like Sam would never go to Galesburg. He says that his young age, this Charlie says that his young age was spent in Galesburg. He went to school in Galesburg, and this is what he describes. This is what Charlie describes to Sam. And Sam always was always happy to hear about Galesburg. And from here Charlie feels that Sam might have gone to Galesburg in 1894. Because one night, fussing with my stamp collection, I found, well, do you know what a first day cover is? When a new stamp is issued, stamp collectors buy some and use them to mail envelopes to themselves on the very first day of sale, and the postmark proves the date. The envelope is called a first day cover. They are never opened, you just put blank paper in the envelope. So Charlie says that one night he came across a first day cover. So what's this first day cover? It is an envelope with a stamp on it, and that stamp collectors mail to themselves on the first day of its sale to mark the date. They are just blank inside and are not meant to be opened. That night, among my oldest first day covers, I found one that should not have been there. But there it was. It was there because someone had mailed it to my grandfather at his home in Galesburg. That's what the address on the envelope said. So the Charlie says that one night, he was just looking at his oldest first day covers, and by surprise, he found one of his grandfather's oldest first day cover. Someone had mailed it to his grandfather at his home at Galesburg, as he saw from the address on the envelope. And it had been there since July 18, 1894. The postmark showed that. Yet I did not remember it at all. The stamp was a 6 cent, dull brown, with a picture of President Garfield. Naturally, when the envelope came to Granddad in the mail, it went right into his collection and stayed there till I looked it out and opened it. The stamp had a picture of President Garfield on it. It was a 6 cent, dull brown color stamp. His grandfather had put it in his stamp collection, and the Charlie now discovered it. Charlie did not remember seeing it before. So when he opened the cover and took it out, he saw something written on it. Address on the right hand corner was 941 Willard Street, Galesburg, Illinois, July 18, 1890. And he looked down at the letter. It read like this: I got to wishing that you were right. Then I got to believing you were right. And, Charlie, it's true. I found the third level. I have been here 2 weeks, and right now, down the street at the delis, someone is playing a piano, and they're all out on the front porch singing, Seeing Nellie Home. And I'm invited over for lemonade. Come on back, Charlie and Louisa. Keep looking till you find the third level. It's worth it. Believe me. So, when Charlie opened the letter, he was surprised to see that the letter was actually addressed to him, and it was written by Sam. It said he was very happy to be in Galesburg right now, and he also wished that Charlie was with him. He says that it is true and there is the third level, and he has found that third level, and it has been already 2 weeks that Sam has been in third level. He says this Sam told Charlie that somebody has been playing piano, and then people all are sitting in front of their porch and singing a song happily. He says that somebody has even invited him for a lemonade. That's why Sam wants Charlie and Louisa to find the third level and come back and stay with Sam. And he believes that he has really found the third level. And the note is signed as Sam. At the stamp and coin store I go to, I found out that Sam bought $800 worth of old style currency. So, when Charlie went to the coin store where he used to exchange his dollars, he found out that from the same shop, Sam had already exchanged new currency with the old one worth $800. That ought to set him up in a nice little hay, feed, and grain business. He always said that's what he really wished he could do. And he certainly can't go back to his old business. Not in Galesburg, Illinois in 1894. His old business? Why? Sam was my psychiatrist. Charlie was thinking that Sam was going to set up a hay, feed, and grain business at Galesburg. He already said Sam used to say that he wished to do that business like hay, feed, and grain, which is very peaceful and happy, and not make him lose his peace of mind. And he says certainly he could not go to his old business because in 1894 people were very happy. They were not anxious, they were not in fear of war or worry. So that's why nobody needed a psychiatrist in 1894. So Why this Charlie said so? Because Sam was his psychiatrist friend. So at last the question that arises is, does the third level really exist? So the answer is the third level actually never existed. Everything was the imagination of Charlie himself. Even the story of his friend reaching the third level is his imagination. And Jack Finney uses this third level as a medium of escape. So, this is all in the third level. Thank you.